All right, thank you very much, David, for that. So, as you all heard, what David said, that we should, as fast and quick as possible, do and submit the assignment, so we can help everybody, both the tutors and the student as well. For the student, it will help you at least prepare ahead of the next class and also go through the materials that you have. And for the tutors too, it will also help us mark this assignment and be done with everything before our next session. So please just don't wait till Friday or don't wait the deadline before you do the assignment. As the assignment is going to be dropping today, after this class, the assignment is going to be dropping in the Google Classroom. So just go through it and start something, right? So just start the assignment and yeah. So yeah, that's it for that. So for today, we are going to be going um, we are going to be looking at some advanced concepts in Python. And please, can you confirm if you can hear me before I proceed? David, please, can you hear me? You can speak for everyone. Can you hear me clearly? All right, great. So for today's class, we're going to be looking at advanced concepts, advanced Python concepts. All right, let me just share my screen. Okay, so this is the material we'll be using for today's class. So we'll be looking at Python programming, a continuation of what we've been doing for the past 2 weeks. And for this class, we'll be proceeding with the with some of the advanced concepts in Python. All right, there are a lot of things to cover in Python, so we are taking them bit by bit. Right, so for the last class, we talked about the basics and the fundamentals of Python. So for this particular class, we'll be looking further. We're looking at some more advanced concepts, and so that is going to be very, very, very relevant and useful for almost everything you'll be doing, right? So we have a lot. We have actually have a lot to do today, and I don't know if the time would be enough, but I'll try as much as possible to cover enough of these concepts. And I just want to plead with everyone to pay attention. Please pay attention, because some of these concepts can be elusive. What do I mean by that? It might not be easy to understand or grasp at the first go, right? You might not get it immediately. So you need to pay very, 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 you need to pay good attention, so you would get enough. You would get everything you can get from this class. Although you can still go back to the recording and you can still go to the recording, but please, there's a reason we have live classes, so you can have this experience, right, of a real-time lecture. So yeah, that's it for that. So for today, we'll be starting with what we call string formatting. I want to believe that everyone here currently have a basic understanding of Python. So Python is no longer strange to you. You already have the fundamentals, the basics, the data types, variables, and all those stuff we've talked about. So we're going to be moving ahead. So if you don't understand what we've taught and what we've discussed before, it might be difficult or challenging for you to grasp these ones we are going to be talking on today. Right, so please, I just want to believe that everyone here already has an understanding of what we've talked about yesterday and in the previous week. All right, so for today's class, we'll be looking at this concept. We'll start with string formatting. Then we'll move to types of operations in Python. Then we'll look at conditional statements. Then we'll look at loops and functions, and we'll wrap up with objects in Python. So there are a lot actually. Each of these topic has actually a lot under them, right? So I'm going to as quick as and as fast as possible, and also make it and break it down for you to understand. So we'll try to just wrap up with this particular topic, particular session, right? So we can move ahead with what we have for the next week. So I said we are starting with string formatting. So what exactly is string formatting? And let me just create a new this thing here so we can use that to illustrate what we are saying. So now I introduced string to us. You already know what a string is. Um, a string is anything, text, number, whatever it is that is covered in quotes, right? So this is what a string is. Like you can have a text, so surrounded by quotes. This is a string in Python, right? So string formatting basically string for someone is saying they can't see my screen. All right, so please make sure your internet connection is stable before joining this class. All right, so you already know what a string is. I introduced it to us last week, and you know how to write or represent a string in Python either by a double quote or a single quote, right? So now we're going to go further with strings in Python. Now we're going to talk about how to format strings. So let me go to the material. How to format string. It's called string formatting. So what exactly does it mean? It's actually a way to create dynamic strings by incorporating variables, basically, right? So string formatting is just a way to incorporate variables into your string to make it dynamic, right? You understand what this means as we progress, but just understand that we are trying to incorporate variables into our string. So we are basically formatting our string, and there are different various methods in which we can do this in Python, right? So in Python we have three methods for formatting our strings. So we have the format method, we have the f string method, and we have the percentage formatting method. So these three methods, they are basically three ways of doing the same thing. That is formatting your string, right? So this percentage method here is the oldest form of string formatting. So you'll most likely not use it as you use this other two methods. So you can just after this class, whenever you are implementing or you want to format a string, you can just pick one of these methods and use that method as you go. Right. So currently we have the f string, which is the latest method of formatting your string. So most of the tutorials you will see online, they use this particular method in formatting string. So you won't see this one commonly used, and you might see this method, but it's not as common as f string method. But I just brought these three methods out here, so at least you understand that we have several ways of doing the same thing in Python, specifically for formatting your string, right? So now, how do we approach this? How do we format our string? So for instance, you have a name, John. You have a variable, name, and you have another variable, age. And you want to print out a text, right? So normally, your text is usually a string. So, and you want to print out your text that will contain this variable that you've created here. So instead of you to just type out the text and include the name, let's say you include John here, and then you okay. Let me illustrate that. Let me just copy this text here. All right. So instead of coming here to say text, instead of coming here to say my name is John and I am 30 years old. Instead of doing it this way, you can easily or you can make use of string formatting. You can make use of string formatting, right? So this string formatting makes it more flexible and dynamic, right? So what do I mean by that? So there are some situations where you might want to change this particular name here. So instead of you to go to that your text and start editing it, right? This is a very simple example of a text that you might want to format. So there are some cases where you would have a very long text or several texts, right? So instead of you to go to the text and start editing each of those variables, you can just come here and create those variables, right? Create those variables separately and then include them in your text. So let's say you want to change this John now to, let's say, David, right? Normally, if you have your text, you just come here and say David, and let's say you can change the age to let's say 46, right? So if you don't use string formatting, you are going to have to manually do this change, this formatting that you are doing now, and sometimes you might have a lot of string text, right? And it will be rigorous. Is actually going to be hectic doing those single or manual changes to those texts. So now string formatting makes it easy. It simplifies it for us basically. So now we have what we call, okay, we have this particular text now using this format method. You remember I told you we have 3 methods for string formatting. So we have the format method. So for this particular format method, what we do is that you type out your text. Let me erase everything. You type out your text. My name is, then that particular place where you would have that name, the name of the person, you would put, or like you would put what we call coily braces. Like you already know what this is, right? You put coily braces here for this particular variable, and then you would continue with your sentence. My name is the name, and I am 46 too is a variable, like is a variable that you've initialized here. So you come here and then put coily braces too. It's just like a placeholder, and then you complete your text years old. Then you would now close it with a quote, single quote or double quote. Then you have this particular text, but it is not complete. You need to fill in this place with the name and fill in this place too with the age. So using the format method, how you do this is that you come after you've written the text, you now type format, right? So don't confuse this. This is just the normal full stop. So once you are done with your text, you come here and type dot, then format. Then this format would have the variable names that you want to include in this particular placeholders in these brackets that you've put here. So you can have name, and then you have age. So you have 2 places here that you want to put your variables. So the number of variables in this particular format function should correspond to the number of placeholders, that is this bracket that you kept here. So this is just like representing the variable we're going to fill it with, right? So you come here and then put your variable and then close the bracket. So now if you come here and print text, you see that it gave us, it filled in this bracket with this name variable, and the name variable here is what? John. So it filled it with John, and then came here to fill this one with 30. So the age here is a variable pointing to 30, and then it's also pointing to the second placeholder, this bracket placeholder, right? So let's just do something now to help you understand it better. So if I come here and change this particular name to age, and change this age to name, the positioning of this variable matters a lot, because the first one that is here is going to be the first one that will be included or placed in this place. The second one here is going to be the second variable that will be filled, that will be used to fill this particular placeholder or parenthesis that you've initialized here. So if I run this, you see I'm going to get a different text, right? It is dynamic basically. So string formatting has given us this, it has made our text dynamic. So you can change the content of the text based on the information you want there. So if you come here, you see that it has changed it to my name is 30, right? Because I placed this age first. So anything that is here would be what would be put in the first bracket. So the second one is going to be put here too. So, and another thing you need to note for this format method is that the number of brackets or the number of placeholders here should correspond to the number of variables you have here. So you can't have two brackets here and have just one variable here. So if you do that, it's going to give you an error, right? So it's going to be an error. So you already know what you want to fill in here, and you already know what you want to fill in. You know what you want to fill in here. So you make sure that you are appropriately filling them in this particular format function. So that is it for the first method, right? So this is a way of dynamically. So you can come, let's say you want to change this text now. Instead of you to change it manually, you can just come here and change the name to Emmanuel, right? You see, as I change this name here, it's changed the text name because this is a variable and this variable is pointing at something. So everything here is linked. So it makes it dynamic, right? Instead of doing it manually, it makes it easy. So there are some cases or scenarios where you see the usefulness of this string formatting. As we proceed, you are going to be using string formatting, so you understand the importance and the relevance of it. So just understand how to go about the string formatting. So this is the first method for of formatting our string. And this is actually something that is also common, but not as common as the second method. So the second method we have here is what we call f-string, right? So this is the most common way we format string in Python. It was introduced in Python 3.6, that is the Python version, and it's actually very concise and easier than format method. So how do we use this f-string method? So we can come here and then bring in the same text. Right, still using the same text, right? So using the f string method, right? So now for the f string, what you do is once you have your text, you know what you want to write. Let's say we are using the same text. You can come here. Before we type our text, we'll type f, right? So f would always be at the beginning of our text whenever we want to use this f string method for string formatting. So we're going to type f and then start our text. So you can come here and say my name is. Then there's a difference now between this format method and f string method. Remember, in this format method we just created an empty bracket to hold the variable we are going to be placing in this format function. So, but in f string, we are going to actually put the name of the variable inside the bracket. So my name is name. As you can see, it is not empty compared to this one. So my name is then the name variable, and I am age variable, years old, and I am age years old. This age is the variable, the age variable. This name is the age variable. So then you can now close your quote. So this is basically how to use f-string to format your text in Python. So it is very concise and it is straightforward. You don't need to add any other thing after you've written your text. So what you just need to do here is just to add f. Once you put f here, Python will know that, oh, this person wants to use f string method to format their string. So if you come here and print text, you can see the output here. My name is Emmanuel and I am 30 years old, right? So it's giving us the same output as this. So if I come here to this my variable and change it to Dave, I'll change it to Joy, right? If I change it here, you see that everything will change. If I run this to change to Joy, if I come here and I run it, it will change to Joy, right? So you see how it brings it makes everything dynamic. So it makes your work easy basically. So as we are proceeding, you see the use cases and the relevance of this string formatting. So just understand that you can actually format your string, and there are different methods you can use in formatting your string. So we have the format method, which I talked about, where you would have your curly braces holding the variable, like they are in the position of the variables you are going to be filling the text with, right? So once you have typed out your text and you've put your curly braces where you want your variable to be or the data to be, then you now type dot format, right? Dot format, and then the variables you want to include there. Okay, let's just try to extend this particular test so you understand better. So I can say my name is David, I am 46 years old, and I am a citizen of Nigeria. So let's say this is a text you want to format now. So now you have another variable, country. So you can come here and say country is equals to Nigeria. I don't know what's wrong with this keyboard. Nigeria, right? So now to include that or to format this particular text using this format method, you can just come to this text. My name is the name. I am the age, years old. Then you continue, comma, and I am a citizen of. Then you now put another bracket there to hold this new variable, which is the country variable, right? Then as you've placed another bracket, curly braces here, you automatically add the new variable in this format bracket function here. If you don't add anything, Python will not know what to put here, right? So it will give you an error. So you come here and put country, right? So if I come here and I print that, I will see my name is Joy. I am 30 years old, and I am a citizen of Nigeria. So you can see how we included another variable now in that this particular text, and we're able to format it using this format method. So using this f string method, we can do the same thing. You've typed your f, then you now start typing your string. My name is name, and I am age, years old. Then you continue with your text, and I am a citizen of then the country, as you can see it. So we have 3 different variables in this particular string. So you want to include now a new variable, country. So if I print this, I'm going to get this. My name is Joy. I am 30 years old, and I am a citizen of Nigeria. You get. So this is basically how you format string in Python. So this the 2 most common way of formatting your string. The third method is method, right? Is the older method. So I won't really dwell much on that, but I'll mention it quickly. So you have an idea of how to use that method. But mostly you'll be using f string. Any assignment I'll be giving you, although you can choose any method you want to use, but this f string is the most commonly used. So you should always that is basically going to be your go-to method for formatting your string. So for this particular percentage formatting, this is, as you can see, is an older method and less recommended, but still in use. So the reason why I'm bringing it up here is in case you see it out there, you see a code that included or used this percentage formatting, you would understand what it is the person is doing, right? So you understand what the person is trying to do. So it won't be strange to you. So you will see here, you initialize your name, age, and then it uses a different formatting method, which is this percentage sign, as you can see here. So let's just illustrate that quickly. So now we have our text using the percent formatting method. So you have your text, then you can just come here. So you don't type anything in front. The only method you type something in front before your text is your F string, where you write F or you type F there, indicating that you want to use this particular method for your formatting. And just understand the syntax basically of these three different methods. So the thing that differentiates them is actually the syntax. So you come in and you say, my name is. Now, for this particular method, you don't use curly braces. You don't use curly braces. What you use is percentage sign. You use percentage sign. And depending on the data type of that variable, you would either use S or D. If the variable is a string, you write S there, right? You're going to put S after this percentage sign. This particular syntax now is holding the first variable. So this is the name variable, and you know the name variable is a string. So you have percentage and S, and you say my name is this, and I am then percentage again. For numerical data type, you use D to indicate or to tell Python that, oh, this particular variable is a numerical variable. So you put D there, right? My name is this, I am this years old. Then you close your bracket. So unlike the format method where you type dot and format, this one you just put your string, your percentage sign, and then you would have your variable. So as you can see, you have your name variable, which is the first one here, and then you have your age variable, which is the second one here. So you just close it and then run it. So if you come and print text, you see exactly the output. It's exactly the same thing with the other methods, right? So these are just three different ways of doing the same thing in Python. So you are trying to format your string here. So you have this first method, which is the format method, right? So you understand the syntax here. You initialize a curly bracket, two curly brackets, which is a placeholder for the variables, right? So depending on the number of curly brackets here, you would have the same number of variables here in this format function. For F string, you just type F at the beginning and then type your text. So wherever it is you want to have your variable, you would put a curly bracket and write the name of the variable inside that bracket. So Python will automatically replace it with the data of that variable. So this is basically how you format string in Python. You might be wondering the use cases and how you'll be using this thing in Python. As we move on, you are going to see examples of them and situations or scenarios where we are going to string formatting. So just understand these three different methods. So we are also going to talk about operations in Python. Yesterday, we talked about arithmetic operation. And I said, if you remember clearly, that arithmetic operation is a type of operations we have in Python. So there are other types of operations we have in Python, right? Arithmetic operation is one of them, and we discussed that yesterday. Remember when I talked about the addition, subtraction, multiplication, floor division, and modulus? All those are operations like that under arithmetic operation. So we have other kinds of operations in Python. We have comparison operation, we have logical operation, we have assignment operation, we have membership operation, and we have identity operation. So it's important you know these different operations and how they work, right? What they do. So trust me, they are actually very straightforward. So just pay attention. We're going to use examples to explain these different operations. So now for comparison operations, this basically is used to compare two values. Right? So, and we have several different operations under these comparison operations. Just like in the assignment arithmetic operation, we have several different operations like the division, multiplication, and the rest. For comparison operations, we have several different operations. Temitope can hear me. Can everyone else hear me? Can everyone else hear me?
Yes, yes, can hear you.
Is it just Temitope? All right, all right, all right, great. So we have several other. Okay, we have under these comparison operations, we have the sub operations, the different types of operations. So we have the equal to, we have the not equal to, we have greater than, we have less than, we have greater than or equal to, we have less than or equal. So these are basic mathematical concepts, right? So this is the normal comparison that we know. So, but we actually have to talk about it in Python because you might come across it. You not might, you will definitely come across it. So you need to have an understanding of how to implement these comparison operations in Python. So now let's just bring out each of them and give examples. Right. So we have here comparison operations. Right. So the first one is equal to. So this is the symbol for it. So equal to is represented by two equal to sign, right? So remember we've been using this particular for assigning variables. We'll be using equal to, right? So this thing now that you are seeing is not called equal to. It is called assignment operator in Python. In Python, it is called assignment operator. It is not equal to. This is equal to here. Equal to is two equal to. The notation can be confusing, but basically we have two of these symbols to represent this equal to operation in Python, right? So now it is used to compare two different values. So let's say we have okay, let me just give you a very basic example. We have 2. Want to compare 2 with 2. So you can say compare 2 and 2. So you want to see if 2 is equal to 2, right? So that is a very basic comparison. I already know the answer that yes, 2 is equal to 2. So whenever you make a comparison using these comparison operations in Python, it gives rise, or the output is usually true or false. So the output can either be true or false. And remember, I talked about Boolean data type. We didn't really talk much about it, but in the introductory class, I talked about Boolean data type, and that Boolean data type actually has two values. It can either be true or false. So whenever we make a comparison, the output of that comparison is usually true or false, right? So in this case, you can come and say 2 equal to 2. So if we run this, it's going to give us true, right? Why? Because 2 is equal to 2. So this is the syntax of comparing two values in Python. So 2 equal to 2, true, right? If I change it to, let me say, compare to, let's say you want to compare 2 and 4. You want to know if 2 is equal to 4. Yeah, obviously 2 is not equal to 4, so it's going to give us false. If you compare this, it's going to give us false, right? So 2 is not equal to 4. So this is actually how to compare two values in Python. Sometimes you might have maybe variables, maybe number means number 1 equals to 45. Number 2 is equals to 37 or 57. Okay, and now we want to compare these two variables to know if they are the same thing. So you can use the comparison operator equal to. So you can come here and say num1 is equal to num2. So what we are basically asking here is this first number or this first variable equal to this second variable? So if we run it, what are we going to get? Can I see responses in the chat? I want it to be interactive. So not to waste time, we are going to get false, right? Because num1 is 45 and num2 is what? 45. They are not the same thing. So if I should run it, I'm going to see false here, right? So what if I just change this num2 to 45? Now, two of them are the same thing. So if I compare them, it's going to give me true because now they are now the same thing. They are equal to each other. So I'm just taking my time to explain. This is something that we know, right? This is something, a very basic mathematical concept, but I'm just trying to illustrate it well enough so you understand it. So now we have not equal to. Yeah, I see your responses. Yeah, you are actually very correct. So we have another comparison operation called not equal to. So this one is the opposite of equal to. So the syntax for that is an exclamation mark and this symbol here. I'm trying not to use equal to for this symbol because we are in Python now. We are speaking Python, so we speak the correct language here. You get, so this is the assignment operator in Python. This thing that you know as equal to is the assignment operator. So the equal to symbol or operator is this double assignment operator. That is the equal to sign. So the notation can be very confusing, but just understand what I'm saying here. Right. So for not equal to operation, the symbol for that is an exclamation mark and this assignment operator here. So now if we come here and change this to exclamation and this assignment operator, what we are now asking Python to do is to check if this number one is not equal to num2, right? So this is basically how to like ask that kind of question in using Python. Is num1 not equal to num2, right? So num1 is not equal to num2. So in this case, now in this particular case, now what are we going to get? What is going to be the output? Let me see your responses in the group chat. What would be the response? All right. All right. Okay, for this particular comparison now, the answer would be false. Why? Because num1 is 45 and what? Num2 is 45. So what you're asking is 45 not equal to 45? It is false, right? Because 45 is what? Equal to 45. So it can be confusing because this not equal to is the opposite of equal to. So the output you're going to get is going to be the opposite. So if you run this now, you're going to get false. So if you come here and change the value of num2 to, let's say, 54, and you ask, is num1 not equal to num2? So now what you're asking here is 45 not equal to 54? What would be the answer for this particular expression now, given these variables? What would be the answer? Some people are saying false. Are you sure? Are you sure this is false? This is going to be true. This is going to be 45 is not equal to what? 54. I hope you guys are getting this. It can be confusing, but just take your time to understand it. So if you run this, you're going to get true. You're going to get true. So that is it for not equal to operator. And let's move on to the next one. We have greater than. So this greater than is very straightforward. So the syntax for greater than is your normal greater than sign, right? We have, let me just write down everything. We have less than. So the symbol is your normal less than sign, right? So we have them there. We also have greater than or represented or we represent it with this greater than and then an equal to sign. We have less than or equal to, represented by less than or equal to. So just know the symbol that is used to represent these expressions or these operations, right? So if we, okay, someone can't hear me. Please check your internet connection. I'm sure everyone else can hear me. So now we can see here this greater than is represented by the normal symbol that we all know, less than represented by the normal symbol, greater than or equal to. So this is basically what we already know in our basic mathematics. So if we come here now, see these two variables, and we say we compare them using the greater than symbol. So what we are basically doing here is to check if num1 is greater than num2. So what is going to be the output for this comparison, for this operation? What is going to be the all right, great. It's going to be false because 45 is not greater than 54, right? So it's going to give us false. But what if we now change this to 54? What is going to be the output? What is going to be the output? Exact. So it's still going to be false. It's still going to be false. So if we run this, it will give us false, right? To give us false. So just replace that less than. So you get the idea of these comparisons, right? So I won't really use plenty examples for that because of time. So just replace this symbol here with any of these other symbols, and you'll get the you'll be able to compare them based on what you have here. So that is it for comparison operation. It's just to compare two operands, two values. So we would actually use it very well as we move on. So I'm just trying to build a foundation so you understand how to do that. So we've talked about assignment operation. Now we just concluded comparison operations. So we are going to move on to logical operations, right? We're going to move on to logical operations. Now, these logical operations, they are used to combine conditional statements, right? They are used to combine conditional state. The material will be made available after this class. They are used to combine conditional statements. So what do I mean by conditional statement? This particular comparison operations now that we just finished doing, this logical operation is used to combine them, two of them. Like it's used to combine two comparisons. Like what do I mean? Let's come here. Okay, before we demonstrate that, we have three different logical operations in Python. We have the AND, we have the OR, and we have the NOT. This is actually a universal concept, right? But we are trying to implement them in Python. So we have the AND, we have the OR, and we have the NOT. So for the AND, it is true. It's also going to give us either true or false, right? So it is going to be true if both operands, that is the thing you are trying to compare, if both of them are true. So this is actually has to do with mathematics, with logic. So there is really nothing complex about it. It's just our normal logic. We use it every day as human beings, right? It's just that it's not explicit. It's not explicit, but we do these things a lot. I mean, our decision making, and a lot of things we do. So we are trying to make them explicit now. So for the AND operation, let's come here so you would understand better what I'm trying to say. So now we are talking about logical operation. So we have the AND, we have the OR, and we have the NOT, right? So now for the AND, this is how you use AND. Let's say you have two different comparisons. You have, let me create another variable here, num 3. Let's make this 20. Let's make this one 10. Right, so we have 3 variables now. You can come here and say num1, want to compare num1 with num2. So you can say, let's just use greater than. Is num1 greater than num2? This is a single comparison operation. So where this logical operation comes in is when you want to compare two different when you want to do two different comparisons and you want to combine them, right, as one. So you can come and say and, right, make it small letter. You can come here and type and, right? So this and is going to join this one with this new comparison that we're going to make. So we can come and compare num 3 less than num 2. So I'm going to give you time to figure this one out. What is going to be the output? Remember, the output can either be true or false. So for this comparison now that we are doing using this and, so what this and does basically is that for this entire statement to be true, this statement here has to be true, and this statement here too has to be true. If any of them is false, then this entire statement will be false. That is what this and here mean. It means that this one is true. This one is, for everything to be true, this one has to be true, and this one too has to be true. So what is going to be the output for this particular comparison? Is it true or false? Okay, let's do it one after the other. So I'm going to comment that line out. I'm just going to come here and compare each of them. Num1 is greater than num2. Is it true? Yeah, it's true, right? 50 is greater than 10. So let's do the second comparison, which is num3 is greater than num2. Sorry, num3 is less than num2. So what we are basically saying here, asking here is 20 less than 10? False. It's not less than 10. So it's going to give us false. So if we run that, it's going to give us false. So one of these comparison has not met the criteria of this and logical operator, which is that both of them have to be true. So this one now is false, making the entire statement false. I don't know if you got that. So if I comment this thing out and run it, you see I'm going to have false here. I'm going to have false here. So but if I change this to greater than, I'm going to have what here now? I'm going to have true, right? Because this statement is true and this statement is true. So this and joins both of them. And for the fact that both of them is true, then the entire statement is true. So we are going to have true here. So that is what the and statement does, right? For the second one, which is or is basically taking either of the comparisons. One of them has to be true. Unlike and, in and, both of them have to be true for the entire statement to be true. But in all operation, either of them should be true for the entire statement to be true. So if I come here and change it to or, and then change this comparison back to less than, and let's say I change this particular comparison operator here to equal to, what is going to be the output of this particular comparison? Is it true or false? Are you sure? Someone said true. Remember what I said, that this or statement actually takes only one truth from these two statements. So if any of this comparison is true, then the entire statement will be true, right? So in this case, is this first statement true?
Num1 is what? 54. Num2 is what? 10. Is 54 equal to 10? No, that means it is false. You come to this second comparison. Num3 is what? 20. Num2 is what? 10. Is 20 less than 10? No, it means it's false. So none of them is true, which means that the entire statement will be false. So if I run it, you're going to see it's going to give me false. But let's say I change this now. I change this particular let me just change the variable. I change this variable here to 54. What is going to be the output now? Now, this output is going to be true because this first statement is what? This first statement is true because num1 is 54, num2 is 54, and 54 is equal to 54, meaning this statement is true. This one, as long as this statement is true, this one, we don't need this one to be true. This one can either be true or false. That is what this or here mean. Or this one should be either true or this one should be true for this statement to be true. But for and requires both comparisons to be true. If any of them is false for and, the entire statement will be false. So this is logic. This is logic. You just have to calm down and break it down. So if you have something like this, what you do is you just come to each of the comparison and break them down, right? And then make it up to the entire comparison. So that is it for or. So for not is usually the opposite, right? He said for an operation, can they both be false? No, they both have to be true. If both comparisons are false, then the entire statement is false. You get? So both of the comparisons have to be true. So now for not is basically the opposite, right? So if we have something like this, num1 is greater than num3. This is true, right? This is true. So if we add not, and not comes actually at the beginning, not. So if we add not here, it's basically doing asking the opposite. He's saying, is this particular number and this particular equation now is going to negate it and give us the opposite of the output. So if the output of this comparison is true, if you add not here to give us false, if the output of this is false, if we add not, it give us true. Okay, let's just say is num1 equals to num3. So this particular comparison now is false, right? If I add not now, okay, let me run it first, right? So this particular statement is false, but if I add not at the beginning, it's going to convert it to true. So not is the opposite. It gives you the opposite output of that comparison. So that is what it does, right? You might not necessarily use it a lot, but just understand that this is what not does. It negates the output of that comparison. It gives you the opposite of the comparison. So that is it for logical operations, right? So the next one here is assignment operations. So this is something we did last in the last class. We've already used this several times. So the assignment operator is what we use to assign a value to a variable. So if you come here now, let me just quickly talk about this so you understand what we mean by that. So this, okay, let me use this. What we did here now is assignment operation. We are assigning this 54 to this variable 1, and this equal to sign you are seeing here is the operator we use to carry out this operation. Let's say you come here and you say you want to assign a value to x, or let's say name, and you write equal to, and you say Emmanuel. This is not going to assign this variable to this data to this variable, because this is not an assignment operation. This is an equal to operator, right? So basically an assignment operator just assigns this to this, as we've been using for the past few examples, right? So the other one we have is the AND increment. So I talked about this in the last class, so I won't dwell on that again. I talked about increment operation and decrement operation. I also talked about the multiplication and also the division. So if you go to the video, the recording, you would see all this the explanation for this particular operation. So the next one here is membership operation. Membership. So this is actually a very useful operation, right? And this is used for sequences like list, tuple, and set, right? So it's used for data that has several elements like list. So it's mostly used when you are working with list. So if we come here and we initialize a list variable, let's say state, come here and say Lagos, Port Harcourt, PH, Abuja, Calabar, Kano, and let's just include Ogun State. So we have this list of states now, right? This variable, list of states. So now we want to use this membership operation now to know if a particular data or a particular state is in this list. That is what it is used for, membership operation. So let's go to the material here. So these operations test if a sequence in Python is usually a list, a tuple, or a set, right? It's something that has several elements in them. An integer is not a sequence, a float is not a sequence, right? So list, tuple, set, those things that contain several elements, they are what we call sequences, right? So now membership operation is used to test if a sequence contains a certain value. So we have two of them. We have in and we have not in. So if we come here and we say, let's say we want to know if Abuja is in this list. We want to know if Abuja is in this list. We can just come here and say Abuja in, right? This is the operation here. In is the keyword. So once you type this in, Python will know that you want to know if Abuja is in a particular sequence. So you can come and say if Abuja is in state. So this state is the variable, the list variable. So if we run this particular code, what are we going to get? What is going to be the output? Exactly. So wait, give me a minute. Yeah, so you are correct. Abuja is in state, right? So if you run this, we are going to get true. So what this particular comparison, this membership operation does is that it takes this Abuja now, it comes here, compares it with Lagos. It compares with Lagos and it will say, oh, Abuja is not equal to Lagos, so it is false. Comes here, compares it to PH. Abuja is not equal to PH, then it is false. Comes here, compares it with Abuja. Abuja is equal to Abuja, true. Comes here, compare it with Calabar. It does it for everything in that list. So as long as one particular comparison is true, then this entire statement will be true. That means this particular text here is found in that list. So if you come and let's say we change it to Jigawa. I don't know why I've just been spelling rubbish since, but so let's say we come here and we say Jigawa in state. We are now asking Jigawa in this list. So obviously we're going to get false, right? So it's going to give us false because it went through everything in this list and compared them with Jigawa, right? And he saw that there was no true comparison. There was no element in that list that's equal to Jigawa, so it will give us false. So this is very useful because sometimes you would have like a long list of elements, like plenty, like 100, 200, right? and you want to know if a particular value is in that list, you cannot come and start checking them individually. To be very, very time consuming. So you can just use this particular membership operation and ask, is this value now in this list? So Python will go through everything for you and give you the output, whether it is true or false. So that is it for membership operator. So we have the second one, which is not in. So not in is the opposite of in, right? So now what is going to be the output of this particular comparison or this particular operation? True. Exactly. I love that you guys are actually following this class. So it's going to be true because Jigawa is not in state. But if I come here now, okay, if I run this, I will get true, right? But if I come here now and I add Jigawa, let me put if I come here and add Jigawa, it's going to give us false now because now Jigawa has now been added to that list. So if you check every element in that list and compare it with this particular value, you are going to realize that Jigawa is in the list, and then it is going to give us false because Jigawa is in list. And what we are asking here is Jigawa not in state list? So this is actually pure logic. All these operations that we've talked about now. So you just have to take your time to understand exactly what is being compared, right? Exactly what is being compared. So we will move on to the next one we have here. We have what we call identity operation. So this identity operation is a little bit tricky. It's a little bit tricky, and it's more it's kind of similar to comparison operation. This equal to operation. So if we come here now, so for this particular let's click on here. Okay, for this identity operation, it's, as you can see here, it's compare the memory location. So this memory location is very, very important. Let me highlight it. Memory locations. It compares the memory locations of two objects. So this is not something you will use all the time. Like you will not use this particular identity operation comparison all the time, right? So don't bother yourself so much about it, but I'll still explain what it does. So if I come here now, I have two lists. List A, which contain Abuja, Lagos, and Kaduna, and list B, which contain Abuja, let's say Osun, and we have Kaduna. All right, so we have these two lists now. If we use the normal comparison operator, the equal to operator for these two lists, we are going to have something like this. List A, let me use comments, comparing the two lists. If I come and I compare list A using this equal to comparison operation to list B, what will I have here? What will be the output of this comparison? False, right? So it's false because this list A is not equal to this list. Abuja is here, but Lagos and Osun, they are not the same thing, right? So what if I come here and I change Osun to Lagos? It's going to give me true, right? So now, this is very, very important for you to note. When you use the equal to comparison, it compares the elements of, it compares the content of that particular variable. So this equal to now is comparing Abuja with Abuja, Lagos with Lagos, Kaduna with Kaduna, so it is exactly the same thing. So it is going to give us true. But for the identity operation now, if we come here and so for the identity operation, the we have is and is not. So these are the two operations for identity operation. So if we come here and change is equal to is, we've changed this now to is. So what we are comparing here is the memory location, because whenever we create a variable in Python, this particular variable is stored in our computer in the hard drive, right? So there's a particular memory location where this list A is, and there's a particular memory location where this list B is. So this is operation is actually comparing that location, those locations together, not the exact content of this, because I know some of us will still ask me a question about this, because this membership identity is almost similar to the equal to operation that we just talked about. So if we run this particular comparison now, what do you think would be the answer? If we compare list A with list B, what do you think would be the output? Someone said false. Okay. I want to hear from others too. Okay, said true. Said true. Said true. Said true. Okay. Just one person said false. All right. So actually, the first person that said false is correct. List A is not list B. List A is not list B. But oh, Joy, you changed your mind. Yeah, if funny enough, you were correct. As you can see, it's false. You were correct. You were correct. Now, this is what I was trying to explain. It is easy to conflict these two things. Now, let me come here and say, list A equal to list B. Now, this is comparison operation, and this is identity operation. So look at these two different comparisons now. This first one uses this equal to. What it is doing is comparing the content of these two variables. Why the second one is not comparing the content of these two variables, it's comparing the location of these two different variables in memory. The thing is that you not really use this particular operation, but I just want to distinguish them so you understand that you not be confused. So if you run this first one, it's going to give us true. But if I run the second one, it's going to give us false. Like, I hope that is clear. Like, you might not understand that now, but just take your time to go through the recording when it is out, and just probably practice with other examples. So I don't want us to dwell much on that because of time. So this is what comparison operation does, and this is also what identity operation. All right, okay, all right, great. Okay, let me just, so someone said it's not clear. Let me just illustrate something. Let me just give you an understanding of what is happening when you use this is operation. So now there's a function called ID. There's a function called ID in Python. Let me zoom well. So ID is used to get the memory location of a variable or of an object in Python. So if I say ID list A, what this does is that it retrieves the memory location of list A. So if I run this, I'm going to get this value. As you can see, this is a very long value. This is actually a value that represents where this list A is located in my computer memory, right? You know, all this thing we are doing in Python, everything is stored in our memory in the computer. So this list A is stored somewhere. So this is the value, the location of where it is stored in the computer memory. So now if I print, let me print this. Print. And then let me print for lists. list B, copy and paste. So I'll change this list A to B and it'll retrieve the. So now if I print list A, let me come here and you see I'm using F string now. I'll come list A. So now, see what I'm trying to explain here. This list A, this is the value where it is stored in your memory. So this list B, this is where it is stored in your memory. So what this is operator does is that it compares these two values, right? It compares these two values. And as you can see, this value now, if I copy it and come here and say, is it equal to this value? If I compare the two, I will see that it is false. You get it is false because they are stored differently in location. Even if the two lists have the same content, right? This is what this is identity operation does. It is different from comparison operation. Just understand. Just try to understand that. I won't go back to that again because of time. So I just wanted to illustrate this so you understand exactly what is happening when you use is operation. So the is not, not is not is the opposite, right? Is not is the opposite. So just negate it and to give you the opposite of the comparison. All right. So I hope that is clear. Is it clear before we move on to the next topic for today? All right, great. So just understand these operations we just talked about: arithmetic, comparison, logical, assignment, membership, and identity. So these are very important concepts to know in Python, right? Very, very important to know. So we are going to move on to what we call conditional statements. Now, I said initially that this is a step above what we did yesterday, this particular class. So we are going to be introducing some concepts that are not really that easy, they're not straightforward as what we've been doing before, but if you pay attention, you understand them. So today we're going to be introducing what we call conditional statements. Right? So you know what condition is, right? Condition is like it's difficult to explain, but you understand what condition is. So condition is a criteria that needs to be met for an action to take place. So someone asks, is ID the function for identity operation? No, I said ID is a function, right, that is used to get the memory location of a particular variable or a particular object. To be honest, I really like explaining and making myself clear so you don't get confused. So ID here is not something we've done, right? We've not treated function, but in this case I just introduced it to explain exactly what is happening here, right? So it is a function. We are going to come to discuss what function is, hopefully today if there's still time. So it's a function that gets the memory location of an object, right? So we did with lists now, but there's something that I need you to know. I just remembered now before we move on to the conditional statement. Something I need to know: if you create a variable, an integer, a and b, let's say we create 6 and 7, and we use the is operator, that is the identity operation, is, right? If we use that for, let's say two of them are the same thing, 6 and 6, normally, if you compare A and B, right? Okay, let me even ask this to the class now. What is going to be the output of this comparison? True or false? Someone is saying false. Are you sure? Remember what this is. This is equal to A is 6, B is 6, and you are checking if they are equal to each other. It is true. It is true. Yes, this statement here is true. This statement here is true, right? As we've discussed before. But what of this one? What is going to be the output for this one? This particular one. A is B. Okay. So now, based on what we talked about before, this is supposed to be false, right? It's supposed to be false based on what we talked about here. But there's a way Python handles integer values, right? There's a way it handles integer values. That's why I didn't want to go deep into this identity operation, because you will not use it a lot, right? But I just wanted to clarify something and just clarify this particular so there's a way Python handles integer values. For list, they are stored separately, but when you initialize two variables that have the same integers, Python is going to store everything in the same location. So if I run this, it's going to give me true, right? Let me come here and print out the ID of A and print the ID of B. As you can see, they're the same thing, because for integer and float, Python stores them in the same location. So the ID, the memory location of these two variables, they are true. So when you do this particular comparison, it's going to give you true, right? So that is it for integer values. But for lists and dictionary and set and tuple, all those ones that are sequences, they are stored differently, even if the content is the same. So just try to understand that. So let's just continue where we stopped. So conditional statements now, as I said before, condition is is a criteria that needs to be met for an action to take place, right? So let's say in our everyday life we use conditional statements because even if we don't know, so every action that we take is based on a condition. If we want to eat, the condition has to be that we are hungry. So the condition is, if I am hungry, then I will eat. You get? If you want to sleep or you want to rest, the condition has to be that you are tired. So it will be, if I am tired, then I will sleep. Do you get? So if you check it, every decision you make is based on a condition. It might be a very, very simple condition, or it might be a complex condition, right? So we don't really think about these things as we do them. It just happens because we're a very complex we are complex animals, right? So we don't think about this. So that is what we are trying to replicate here in Python with conditional statements. So there are actions that we would like to take in Python based on a condition. You get? So there have to be a condition stated before an action will be taking place, right? So we are going to try to use examples to explain that, but let me just go through what we have here. So a conditional statement in Python are a fundamental part of controlling the flow of execution in a program. So it actually allows program to execute certain blocks of code based on specific conditions, making decisions based on the data and input available. So you understand all these things I'm saying in a minute, right? So for the conditional statement, we have three statements. We have if statement. In Python, we have if else statement. We have if, elif, and else statement. I know it's getting too much, but just flow with me here. Pay attention, right? At this point, if you lose attention, I won't come back. It's very critical that you pay attention to everything I say from now, right? The ones we've been talking about, they are kind of straightforward. Are not that complex, right? But starting from here now, we will start to introduce some complexity to our code. So now, in this conditional statement, we have if statement, we have if else statement, and we have if else statement. So let's illustrate it. So now, for if statement, the if statement is the simplest form of a conditional statement in Python, right? It basically executes a code based on a condition. So in this place, you can see that we have a variable x, which is equal to 10. And now, we now wrote a conditional statement. Now, if x is greater than 5, now this condition has to be met for anything that is following it to happen. The same way I said, if I am hungry, then I will what? Eat. If I am feeling sleepy, then I will. If I'm feeling tired, then I'll sleep. If let's say you are using generator, and yeah, you are using a generator. So if let's assume your fuel finishes, you get. So to buy fuel, your fuel has to finish. So if my fuel is exhausted, then I will purchase fuel. So the condition for you to purchase fuel is that your fuel has right, then it would execute, or you would perform the action that follows. So you can just think of anything that you do, right, that is based on a condition. You see that there are plenty of them. So in the assignment I'm going to give, I'm going to actually give examples of real life situations where you are acting based on a condition, or the actions you are taking is based on a condition. So you are going to break them down and just write them out, and yeah, you will see that later on. So that's by the way. So now for this particular statement, we have the variable that we initialize, then we have if statement, that is the condition, and then we have the action. So if x is greater than 5, then print x is greater than 5. So this particular condition here has to be true. It has to be true. So if I come here now and I say, remember I have a variable. I have a variable state. Let me check. Be sure. Okay, let me just create a variable here. State. I have Abuja. I have Lagos. I have Enugu. I have Imo. I have Sokoto. I have Borno. I have Kwara. So now I have this list. I have this list of states here. So now I want to perform an action, right? So I want to check if a particular state is in this list. If that particular state is in this list, then I will do something, right? So I can come here and say, if let's say Lagos in states. Remember, now we are using the operations that we talked about now in this if statement. So if, remember when I taught you about this, that we are trying to check if this particular value is in this state using membership operator in. So this particular statement here has to be true for anything that follows it to be executed. So if Lagos in state, remember, okay, I have not introduced the if syntax. So for the if statement, you start by writing if, then it follows by the condition or the comparison you want to make. then after you've written that comparison, then you now follow it by writing or typing a colon. You type a colon and then press enter. So when you press enter, Python will automatically indent it will automatically indent it for you, indicating that anything you are writing here is still part of this statement that is up here. So this is what a code block is in Python. Now we'll be talking about indentation. This is how indentation is used, right? So anything we are writing here is still part of this code we are writing up here. So I can come and say if Lagos in state, then print Lagos is in state. So this is what you want to print. If Lagos is in state, then you print Lagos is in state. So if I run this particular code now, what is going to be the output? I want to hear from you. What is going to be the output of this code? Exactly. It's going to be, see, this is, now we are not executing a single comparison now. We're actually writing a statement that it should print something if this condition is met. Remember, so in this case, this condition is met, right? Lagos is in state. So because what this particular statement does is it compares Lagos with all the elements here, and it finds out that Lagos is here. It now gives us, it now equates to true, right? So it executes this particular part of the code as true. So for the fact that this particular condition is true, then this particular code that is following it will be executed. So if I run this, this is what I'm going to get. Lagos is in state, right? Lagos is in state. But if I come here and change this Lagos to Bauchi, if I say Bauchi, what is going to be the output of this particular code? Like, this is a trick question. What is going to be the output? Okay. I think you are trying to understand the output you are going to get in this situation. So we are not going to get an error message. What is going to happen here is that nothing will happen, right? Because this condition is not met, right? Bauchi is not in state, so nothing will happen. There's Python will not print anything. So if I run this code, nothing will happen. No, it's not going to give us an error. We are not going to get an error. Nothing will just happen. It will just be there, right? It will just be there. Nothing will happen. So now this is just an if statement. You get? But when we introduce else, remember I said we have different conditional statements. We have just the if statement and we have the if else statement. So now when you would need to introduce the else statement is when this particular condition is not met. So if this particular condition is not met, then your else statement would run. Okay, someone is asking why isn't there an error response? There's nothing wrong with your code. So it will not give you an error. It's just the logic that we are looking at at this point, the logic you get. So because this if statement is supposed to be executed, we are supposed to print Bauchi is in state if this statement up here is true. But the statement is not true, then we are not going to print anything. Nothing will be printed. That is how conditional statement works. It will not give you an error message, right? It will not give an error message. The only time you give you an error message is when you have maybe there is probably a syntax error, or as we progress, you discover the kinds of error we have in Python. But in this case, it is not going to give us any error message. So now let's go straight to the next conditional statement, which is if else. So now in this case that nothing is printed, we would actually need to have an alternate action that will be taken if this particular condition is not met, because we won't like nothing to be printed on our screen, you get. So we can come here and type else. So you might be asking that, and since else is continuation of this if statement, why is it not indented? That would be actually a valid question, but no, this if statement is a statement on its own, right? So we are done with it. So anything we are writing next, as long as we don't want it to be under this if statement, we are going to start from a fresh line. So the else statement now is another part of a conditional statement that we can include. So we can come here and say else, and then put your colon, and then enter. It will indent it, because anything that is following it now is part of this else statement. So we can come and print Bauchi is not in state, right? So now, as you can see, we have two statements. Now we have the first if statement. If Bauchi in state, print Bauchi is in state. If this doesn't run, you get it. Now go to the next statement here and print Bauchi is not in state. But if this statement is true, this particular print statement would run, and this one would not run. You get. So if we print this now, what is going to be the output? If we run this code, what is going to be the output? Bauchi is not in state. Joe, you said nothing. No, it's actually going to print something. This particular statement is not true, so the next else statement will be printed. So if you run it, this is what we're going to get. Bauchi is not in state. So let me give you an example now. Let me come here and add Bauchi to this list. Bauchi. So I've added Bauchi to the list now. What is going to be the output of this particular code? What's going to be the output? Now that I have added Bauchi, what's going to be the output? Yeah, exactly. The first statement holds true. So it's going to run. The first statement is going to run. The only time this else statement run is when the first statement is not true. That is when this else statement. So you need something to be printed out on your screen so you would understand what exactly is happening. So most of the time you would have your conditional statement with an else statement. You don't just write if sometimes. So if I run this, I'm going to get Bauchi is in state, right? Because now I've added Bauchi, and then this particular statement compares each of the elements with Bauchi, and it's found Bauchi in the list, and it holds true. Then because it holds true, this particular action will be taken. You get? Like, hope that is clear. Did everybody get this particular explanation now before we proceed? I want everybody to be on board. I want to be sure everybody is on board. Is this okay? Are you satisfied with this explanation? All right, great. So now we are going to move to the next conditional statement. Now we are adding more layers on top of it. You get? So we are building on what we've learned already. So we started with if, we move to else. Now we are now adding another statement to it, which is elif. Elif, right? So elif is like another if statement. So elif is basically, let's just see it here. For multiple conditions that need to be evaluated, the if elif else structure can be used. Elif is short for else if, right? It specifies additional conditions to check if the previous conditions were false. So let me just go straight to use an example to show what the elif is. So now we can actually add another statement. Okay, you ask, why did the else run even when Bauchi is not in state? No, the else will not run on all the only time this else statement will run is when this particular if statement is false. That's this particular condition here is false. That is when this else statement will run. But as long as this statement is true, the else statement will not run. It won't run. So now we are going to include another one, which is elif. Elif. So this elif is like is a short form for else if. So it's a way to add additional conditions to your conditional statement. So I can come here and say, okay, if Bauchi is in state, print Bauchi is in state. I can also come here and say elif elif Lagos in state. Then I'll come here and say print. Let me remove this. Print Lagos is in state. So for this particular elif statement, we can have as plenty as we can. We can have as plenty as we can. So we can come here and say if Bauchi is in state, then print Bauchi is in state. Elif Lagos is in state, right? So if this condition holds true, then this one will print. So if we print this, the first statement will print, and the entire conditional statement will stop, right? Once Python meets a particular statement that is true, it is going to execute that code and it's going to stop everything. So in cases where we remove Bauchi now from this list, so in cases where this first condition is not true, it will now go to the next one and check Lagos, elif Lagos is in state. So let's say we remove Lagos from here now. That means Lagos is not in state. This first one will be false, it will not run. Second one will be false, it will not run. Then we can now come here and add another elif and say elif Abuja in state, and then we'll say print Abuja is in state, right? So now we have several conditional statements. We have if statement. This is what we use to start our conditional statement. So as we start with if, the next conditional statement would be elif, right? So that is else if, like if this one is not true, then this one, check this one. If this one is not true, then check this one. If this one is not true, check. So that is basically what we are trying to tell Python here, right? So is the first, anyone that is true will be the one that will be executed. So in this case now, what are we going to get as the output in this particular conditional statement? What is going to be the output of this statement? I need your responses in the chat, in the group. What is going to be the output of this particular statement? Exactly, Abuja is in state, correct. So because Python checked this particular first one, we check if it's true. Oh, Abuja is in state, right? Now it check Abuja, it now realize that it is true. Abuja is in state. Then to now print Abuja is in state, execute this action here and stop the entire process. So what Python is just trying to check for is trying to check for any statement that is true. So once it meets a statement that is true, it will execute the action and stop. So let's remove Abuja now from here. What's going to be the output? Removing Abuja now, what's going to be the output? Okay. Let me change this. What's going to be the output here? Exactly. You got, and people that said Bauchi is not in state got it exactly. Although the text does not make sense, right? But you understand the logic. None of these statements here was true. So the else statement will now be printed out because none of them was true. You get? So that is just the logic of if statement. So you have if statement, you have elif, you have else. So you can have as many elifs as possible. And have, depending on your comparison, depending on what it is you are comparing, right? So once you start writing Python code, you see that you use this a lot. Like if statement is very, very important in Python. You use it a lot because there are times when you want to execute a particular code, but you want it to meet a particular condition before you execute that code. So you use if statement. So the logic will be different for your situation or the scenario you are writing the code for. So this is a very simple if statement, right? In this case, we are just printing Bauchi in state. We are just printing it. This is an action. So there are some situations where we want to check if Bauchi is in state, then we can add Bauchi to the list of states. So let me just clear this. Let me just clear this. So now I went through this particular list, compared it with Bauchi, right? And I saw that Bauchi is not in this list. So if Bauchi is in state, I'll just come here and say print, yes, Bauchi is in state. But if Bauchi is not in state, that is the else statement. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So now I want to kind of give another example, because in the previous example I was using print, because it's not only print will be executing every time. That sometimes you need to do a particular or carry out a particular action. So let's say your task here is like you want to check this list for Bauchi. If Bauchi is in that state, then you will not do anything. But if Bauchi is not in this state, then you are going to add Bauchi to the list. So to add Bauchi to the list, you just come here and say state.append Bauchi. Right? So this is the code you use to add something to a list. We'll still come to this, right? I'm just giving this as an example. Don't worry yourself if you don't understand this. We're still going to talk about attributes and methods of different objects in Python. So then we are going to talk about add Bauchi to this list if it is not there. But if Bauchi is there, we'll just print Bauchi is in state. So after adding this Bauchi to state, we just come here and say print Bauchi has been added to state. Then we can print state. So this is a typical action you'll be carrying out in Python, right? So in this case now, what is going to happen? Who can tell me exactly what is going to happen here? Anyone? Who can tell me exactly the process that will happen? All right. Yeah, actually, let me just give me a minute. Let me go through this. Okay, so quickly check something out here. Just give me a minute, please. Exactly. Bauchi would be added and a new states list will be printed that will include Bauchi. So that is exactly what this code is going to do. So now we'll have state. So this is what we're going to have here. Bauchi has been added to state. Bauchi has been added to state. Then it now printed out the new state list, including Bauchi. Remember that the initial state list did not include Bauchi, but now we now use a conditional statement to carry out this particular action of adding Bauchi to the list. But to do that, we need to check the conditions first. So that is where conditional statement comes in. So there are numerous cases where you want to perform actions, but those actions have to be based on a condition. So you use conditional statement, right? So I think that should be clear enough. That should be clear enough. So we actually have other topics to talk about, but we'll just have to stop here for today because of time. And I think we have gotten a lot of information already. So I'll just leave it here so we can go through what we've learned today, practice it, and also just practice it and internalize everything we've learned. So I don't want to overload us with information, right? So from next week, we'll continue with the other topics we have here. So we are still going to talk about loops and then functions, and then we're going to talk about objects. So these are more advanced concepts that is going to use all these things that we've learned. We're actually going to use everything we've learned in this loop, and then functions now is now going to encapsulate everything, right? So we'll discuss objects in Python. So we have a lot of other things to do. Python is actually a very vast programming language, and I just hope with time we're going to cover them, and we'll start using them for data analysis, because the aim of learning Python is not just to learn Python, right? We're learning Python for data science, right? To analyze data. So once you understand the fundamentals, once you understand all these concepts that we are trying to explain here, then we are going to be very good to go in using it for data analysis and data science, right? So yeah, that is actually where we're going to stop for today. So we can take questions and call it a day. So from next week, we'll continue with loops and iteration, and then we'll go to functions, and then objects in Python. So as you can see, we have a lot to cover. This material will be provided for us, so you can even read ahead, right? You can read ahead of the next class. So I'm going to be receiving questions now. So if you have any question, please indicate by raising up your hand. We have about 10 minutes to go. All right, Taiwo, I've unmuted you. You can go on.
All right. Yes, good evening. Thank you very much. That was really very insightful. So I have a couple of questions. The first one is around the numeric variable you mentioned using the F strings. I think you mentioned percentage. Sorry, you mentioned percent formatting method. So I'm a bit confused because I'm trying to compare a percent formatting method, which you reference, saying that we have to use a percentage sign plus D if it's a number.
Hello. And
then sorry, if it's a number, and then we have to use the text and the other one as a number. So I'm trying to compare it with modulus. So how can one separate between modulus and what is it called? Percent formatting method. That is the first question. The second one is around the directory we just entered now. The states using that append to add Bauchi to that listing. So is it possible, because during the last class you did mention that we can have like an index from 0 to 5 or what have you. So is it possible to reference Bauchi not just starting from the least, not starting from the extreme left, can we inject Bauchi within probably like the first entry, not Enugu? We can eliminate Enugu. I'm just trying to see, because from what I run now on my system, Bauchi actually is the last on the list. So is it possible to assign Bauchi to other column? And that's just the question. So the first question is about how do we differentiate between percent formatting method and then modulus, and the second question is how can we can one really insert when trying to append or add a particular list which is not recorded initially, can we add it to another column? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Taiwo, for that question. Yeah, it's actually a very brilliant question. So for your first question, now we talked about modulus the other time where we were talking about the arithmetic operation, and now we are also introducing the string formatting method using the percentage sign. So yeah, these are actually using the same symbols, right? So as you can see, the modulo operator is something like this, 8 modulo 3, right? So you get the remainder. So this is the modulo operator. Why for the string formatting method? It is different. Like you are embedding it in a string. So Python is not seeing it as a modulo operator because it is inside a string. So what do I mean? So if I come in and I say and I write text, I want to create a text that I will format, and I will say this is a text. All right, let's say this is let's come here and say string. Let's say the variable I want to put there is country, Nigeria. I can come and say this is, then this percentage sign, right, encapsulated in this quote as a string. So Python is interpreting it differently from a modulo. A modulo is just on its own. It is outside a string. It's outside quote the quote that you use to define string, right? So Python is seeing it differently than what you see in a modulo operation. So here it is embedded in a string in between two quotes. So if you just come here, also the one you have outside has a bracket following it. So the syntax is quite different. So it can be confusing for someone that is just starting to learn about it, but the syntax is the difference. So Python understands the placement and the arrangement of this syntax. So once you get it, then Python will know exactly what it is you want to do. So for the fact that the percentage sign is used for both modulo and both string formatting, it shouldn't be confusing, right? So there are different ways to do the same thing, or Python or people that wrote Python might decide to use the same thing to do different or carry out different operations, but in a different way. Like the syntax will be different, right? So the basic or the thing you just need to know here is the syntax and how to express them. So here you just have here country, and it has formatted your string. Right? It has formatted your string, but I don't want you to pay much attention to this particular method, right? This is the least used method for formatting strings in Python. Nobody uses this again, right? I just introduced this brought it to this class so you understand that yeah, we also have this method. This is the oldest method. So most of the times you'll be formatting your string, it will be used. You'll be using f string or the dot format method, right? So don't disturb yourself so much about this. But I hope this was able to clear your question.
Yes. Thank you very much.
All right. For your second question, if I got you right, you're trying to ask if we can add Bauchi instead of adding Bauchi to the later part of the list. We can add Bauchi in between this element, right? Am I
Absolutely.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. It's very possible. Very, very possible. And I don't want to go ahead of myself here because it is part of what we are going to discuss in the next class, right? So once we get to that part of the of Python, you are going to understand it perfectly. So it is very, very possible to do that. So once we get there, you will see it. So I
All
hope
right. Thank
that
you
that's
very much. Yes. Thank you.
all right. So Josh,
Sorry, it was an error.
yeah, okay, okay. Is there another question? Any other question? Please indicate by raising your hand. Fred, you can go on to speak.
All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Manuel, for the class. So, I have a question regarding the loop that we just ran. I don't know if it was because at work, the person that was teaching me, we are using a Linux operating system, but he always ends his statement with FI whenever he runs an if statement. So, is it the closing statement? Is it necessary, or you can skip the part?
Sorry, can you come again?
Okay, I said the the if statement that we've been running, we had something similar at work, and the instructor always end his statement, no matter whatever, even if it's the else if else, whatever it is, he always end it with FI as a
Okay,
closing
okay,
statement.
okay,
But when you
okay.
close it as FI, so my question is it necessary, or is it something that you can just
Yeah,
skip?
yeah, I got your question. What you are saying now is for a different um programming language, right? I believe that it should be Bash. It should be Bash programming language for terminal and for Linux operations, right? So that's a different programming language. So it has a different syntax. So yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. So in that case, when you write your if statement, you always close it with the reverse of the if statement. So use F5 to close it, right? So that is a different programming language. This is Python. Python has a different syntax. So this is how Python runs its if statement. You don't close it using F5. Don't know if that answers your question.
Yes. I get it now. I think okay. What we used was actually a Linux operating system. That it was Bash. Yeah, it was Bash.
Yeah, yeah, it's Bash. It's actually Bash syntax for writing if statements. So just don't confuse these two. They have different syntax. You get it? Just like the way English has a different syntax from or with French or other languages, right? So that's just it. All right, Samson, can go on to speak. Hello, Samson, you raised your hand. You can go on to speak, please.
All right, good evening, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, good evening, Samson. I can hear you.
All right, so sorry, sir. My question now so far.
Your line is breaking. Your line is breaking. I
I
can't
s-
hear you clearly. Your network
sir.
is bad. I can't hear you clearly. Okay, while we wait
How
for
about
him
now?
to,
Is it better now?
I can't hear you clearly. It's breaking in between. You can type your questions out in the on the group chat. I will attend to it. All right. So, is there another question from anyone else? Any other question? So I'm assuming we all understand everything we we looked at today.
at least to an extent, might not necessarily understand it completely, but at least you have a good grasp of it. So if there's no question, then we would have to call it a day. So let me give few seconds in case someone is trying to ask or someone has a question. So one, the essence of live sessions is to interact with, is for the student to interact with the teacher and for the teacher to interact with the student, right? So feel free, ask your questions, whatever your question is. Don't think your question won't make sense. Like there's no question that is dumb at this point. You get, so you are trying to learn something. It's not like you know it already. So just ask your question. Okay, okay. I'll assume we don't have any question again. So would be calling it a day, and just keep tab with the updates on the Google Classroom. I'll be posting information, I'll be posting materials, and also be dropping the assignments before tomorrow. Before tomorrow, you should see the assignments for the week. All right. So please and please try to submit your assignments at least on time. Try to attempt it too, because the turnout for the previous assignment was very low, like very, very, very low. So please, let's try to do our assignment and just keep up with everything that's going on. Because without our engagement and without the effort, you would not learn. You would not learn. So please, the assignment will drop, and as soon as it drops, just go through it and yeah. Have okay. Someone is raising up their hand. Yeah, you can go on to speak, David. Okay, I think anyone that has a question should just drop it in the group chat at this point. We would call it a day, and